Hi, I'm Travis Ray, Director of Channel Sales for Overwatch. We're going to be talking about securing your multi-site network with Next Gen Managed Firewall. And with me, I have Ronak Patel, Senior Account Manager and Sales Engineer at Mako Networks, and Mark Porter, CEO at Highwire Networks. Hey, guys.
Hey, Travis.
Hey, Travis.
So just real quick, why don't we do some introductions? We'll start with you, Mark. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, all right. Thank you. Thank you for having me on here and hosting, Travis. My name is Mark Porter. I'm the president and CEO of Highwire Networks. And the Overwatch platform is what we're talking about today, which is our managed cybersecurity marketplace.
And I'm Ronak Patel, sales engineer and account manager. I've been with Mako Networks for 8 years now, 14-year technologist, working specifically on like hospitality, retail technology, and multi-site operators.
Awesome. Well, let's get into the fun stuff here. Ronak, let's talk a little bit about Mako Networks.
Yeah, sure. So we're a 20-year plus manufacturer of cybersecurity hardware. That includes firewalls, access points, switches, a cloud-based SD-WAN platform. So, from a single pane of glass, we have visibility for all of our merchants. Specifically, the platform and the solution was designed in early 2000s to support sites networks without having to dispatch a technician on site. And then we've quickly evolved into focusing on PCI compliance for the large enterprises. Those can be in various verticals such as oil and gas, quick serve restaurants, small box retail, healthcare, parking garages, just to name a few of the different verticals that we serve. So international presence headquartered here in the US in Chicago with offices in New Zealand, United Kingdom, and Australia.
Mark, tell us a little bit about Overwatch and the experience working with Mako.
Sure. So the Overwatch portfolio, the managed service marketplace and the portfolio that we built within it was really designed because our partners were asking us what we do in this space. Highwire Networks has been around for over 20 years, delivering services exclusively through partners, large partners, small partners, everywhere in between. Really founded on a simple premise of delivering services with our partners under their brand to their customers. As we moved into the managed cybersecurity marketplace, we saw a problem, and we looked at it from a unique angle. Cybersecurity and securing networks in general is not so much a technology problem, but it's really a business problem. So when we looked at it from that angle, what we broke it down to is three main points. Is that today there's 1,300 to 1,500 products out there, depending on who you listen to, all designed to solve a very narrow issue. There's not enough people to manage those products and those solutions and the data they put out. And three, they put out a lot of really important information. And if you're not doing something with that information, you're creating a challenge for your business because you could be deemed to be willfully negligent in that. So what we've looked for is best in breed partners, either emerging technologies that have traditionally been focused on specific verticals or niches that we can leverage in a different way for our partners, technologies that are practical, and then we bring together all of the personnel required to manage those for our partners and their end users. So we bring them ready-made business with 5 or 6 really outstanding tools and give them the opportunity to pick amongst those tools what's required. And then most importantly, tie them all together, leveraging our orchestration and automation response capabilities so that we can manage it all through a single pane of glass and take actions effectively and efficiently for our partners. I've known Mako for a long time. We'll talk a little bit about that relationship. I've watched them really grow, watched the product continue to improve. And when you look at the types of brands that they're servicing, you see, these are no joke brands, right? And they're servicing them in tremendous scale. So we're very excited to bring Mako into the platform. We've built some great automations between us, and we're excited to get it out there and help our partners understand what the platform can do.
Yeah, awesome. It sounds like there's a lot of synergy there, and we'll get into that a little bit more. Let's talk a little bit about the technology and some of those things that you mentioned, Mark. Ronak, tell us about the devices that Mako offers, and who are they generally a good fit for?
Yeah, sure. So our flagship product is on the bottom left. You see the 6500s and the 6600s. So the 6600 is the next gen firewall, has the built-in IDS, has the SD-WAN capabilities, has built-in LTE backup. So not only from a redundancy, not only from a security standpoint, from a redundancy standpoint, if you have to continuously process payments over the internet, the uptime is essential. So we have our next gen firewall products. Right above that, we have our 4000 series, which are light routers, good for home offices. Good, they could be utilized as access points, so they could be used in one of two modes. Router mode or access point modes. The 5600 is coming up. That's going to be our first 5G device, so we're very excited about that. In the middle, we have our VPN concentrators. So VPN connectivity is still a very real requirement for very large enterprises. So we have those that could be hosted physically in a data center or virtually in like a Google or an Amazon cloud. And then we have our managed switches, they're PoE, and it just enables that VLAN segmentation that we preach until we're blue in the face. So all these appliances are managed from a single pane of glass, whether you're an operator that has 5 or 10 locations, 50 to 100, or 1,000, 2,000 plus. From a single login, you'll have the ability to manage all these appliances. So, and that cloud instance is something that is Mako hosted, so it's not something that we require our partners or end customers to host. So that's just a quick summary of the appliance lineup.
So, Mark, with everything that Ronak just said, and as a CEO and a technology guy, what kind of business and bottom line impact does that present for you? What do you hear there when Ronak says that?
Well, I take umbrage at the technology guy, Travis. You're destroying you're destroying the facade. So I'll tell you, when we look at it, what I look at is the firewall is a critical piece of the network, right? And a lot of our partners have moved up the stack from just providing a managed firewall solution into providing a full suite of security products, right? The really cool part about the Mako solution is that it can be delivered. It's delivered on an MRR basis. So there's not a lot of CapEx, and there's no CapEx involved in delivering the solution unless you're going to charge for installation. So we talk a lot about taking our customers as we find them. When you're taking over a client's network, do you want to take over whatever firewall they might have had in place? Do you want to tell them that they have to go to whatever your brand is and they're going to spend $5,000 to do that? I think those are difficult conversations, right? So one of the things that we looked at is how do we bring a solution that's cost effective, generates monthly recurring revenue for the partners, gives the clients a really great level of performance, and then supports all the various compliance frameworks on top of it. And that last one is really critically important, because whether it's PCI or HIPAA or NIST, whatever framework you're trying to accomplish, you need to have the tool sets that help you do that. Being compliant doesn't mean you're secure, but security without compliance, if you're in certain verticals, is also something that you just can't afford to have, right? So when we look at the Mako solution, this allows you to take your clients as you find them. If you need to replace a firewall with something you can support, for us and our partners, this allows you to do it in a way that doesn't break the bank and puts it in a monthly recurring revenue for them, and allows you to then upgrade them every 36 months as it makes sense to whatever the latest and greatest is, and automatically avail yourself of the fact that you're getting automatic updates. With the Mako platform in the Overwatch model, you're getting all of that management interface. There's no hidden fees. No, you got to buy this license, you got to buy that license. It's all baked in.
So what I'm hearing is OpEx, no upfront cost, predictable cost for managed service providers and their customers, and best of breed technology.
I think you're picking up what I'm laying down, my friend.
Summing it up for everybody. All right.
Hey, Travis, I realized I didn't answer your last question as to where the solution fits. The solution really is designed for the multi-site enterprises with the small or sometimes no IT staff, and I think that kind of goes along with the Overwatch program as well. So if you look at, I'll just use one of our large oil and gas customers. They have about 5,000 we have about 5,000 Makos deployed at various gas stations across the country with that particular brand. That brand is comprised of franchisees that have anywhere from a single site to 30 locations to 200 locations. You'd be surprised some of those operators do not have the technical staff. So, restaurants, convenience stores, a lot of them run on tight margins. They simply can't afford to have that in-house expertise. So they're looking for something that's plug and play, that has the automatic updates, the automatic signatures to easily deploy. So our solution to manage, from a technical perspective, doesn't require command line access or command line knowledge. If you know how to log into a home router, for instance, you'll be able to manage one of these firewalls.
So, Mark, that leads me to another question there. Mako might not have the biggest brand recognition, in the channel per se, right? And with a lot of the customers that MSPs deal with, because they are more enterprise focused, where they're dealing with hundreds of locations and multi-sites. How does that translate into the MSSP world in terms of how we in Overwatch uses that functionality to manage it?
Well, I think it's an interesting point, Travis, is while Ronak talks about multi-site operators, essentially our partners are all multi-site operators, right? They're operating their client networks in the same way that a national brand operates their own stores, right? So they may be operating, they may have 100 small customers, but it's still 100 different sites to manage and operate, right? So having all of that conveniently in one place where you can apply a global change where it makes sense, or especially when it's integrated with our XDR platform and some of the other tool sets that we offer, to be able to have a detection trigger a global change because we know something is bad. So essentially a machine learning driven IDS IPS solution that can change rules, dynamically change and block things that the firewall itself may not detect. But we see it on one customer over here because we're multi-tenant in our XDR platform, and we can move and quickly make a change across the global estate of the firewalls that we're managing. So there's a lot of parallels in that. In terms of branding, as I said, the relationship that I personally have and Highwire has with Mako goes back to 2014, and I've watched the company grow and develop. And frankly, we view that as an opportunity, Travis, because what I've seen is a product that is incredibly robust in its feature set, virtually bulletproof in terms of reliability, zero touch deployment is a real deal with these guys. Unless you need somebody to be running cables, it's really straightforward. It has out of band management built into it. It has failover and SD-WAN capabilities. And again, it supports compliance frameworks in a way that others can't, including some of the built-in features and functions. And I know we're not going to go into a technical deep dive on that today, but there's some really awesome things built into the platform that truly allow you to drill down and get the multi-level approvals that you need to keep compliant with PCI, to be able to have business case rationales for changes that apply across many frameworks. And this, again, these really PCI, you could use NIST as kind of the spine, right? And PCI maps to NIST in a certain way. PCI maps to HIPAA in a certain way, so you can support all of those frameworks, and all of this is done in that MRR model in a way that makes it so that our partners can actually make some money at it, and that's really critical for them, and that the customers get tremendous value and don't have to deal with if in the event it does break, it's under the contract. They've got all that. And then we can develop all the management around it.
Gotcha. Well, let's do some fun stuff here. One thing we wanted to do today about the topic was debunk some of the common myths. So let's start with the first one and talk to the audience about something they probably have heard or have thought, that firewalls are old generation. They're very little ROI, whether it's from a managed service provider's perspective or from the customer who's making that investment for the managed firewall, that it's old tech and really presents very little ROI. What's the truth there? Mark, you want to go? Ronak, you seem to have an answer. Go for it.
Yeah, well, I guess firewalls. It's almost a commodity now. You have to have it. It's a bare minimum. If you're a work from home employee, you need to have a network appliance at your home that's doing some sort of stateful packet inspection, that's doing some sort of intrusion prevention. I think, firewalls are a bare necessity. So I think it's like, if you want to connect to the internet, you have to have a router. If you are a business, whether it's a home business or an actual retail footprint, I think the firewall is an absolute bare minimum. And you need something that's going to have automatic updates for security updates, signatures, and that sort of stuff. So I guess that's my first impression when I hear that.
I think there's a couple of things in there to think about. And I think Ronak's right. I mean, it's a must-have, right? So whether it's old generation and there's no ROI, I'm not sure that really applies. It's an absolute must. But I want to take it a step further, because Ronak hit on a key thing, especially in light of the last 14, 15 months where everybody switched to work from home. What I saw when that was going on, that is at best alarming, at worst deeply disturbing, is you've sent all your workers home, and now they're working from home on compromised internet routers from their MSP, and then they're connecting that to some Best Buy purchased Wi-Fi network that the kids are on and running TikTok on, which is now basically sending all of the data on that network, all of the critical network elements to God knows where, right? So you've created a vector, a surface for an attack that is just ginormous, right? It is increased by leaps and bounds. So the Mako product line, it has critical elements of that, and the firewall at home, and an affordable firewall at home to isolate your critical business assets in a work from home environment from that network is incredibly important. And the Mako product line supports that with multiple connections. The other thing that you take it a step further and now look at as we're returning to normal and look at some of the trends that are going out there in technology in general, like 5G and the types of devices that you're now finding, intelligent edge cameras with massive amounts of storage on them that are capable of sending alerts or tracking anomalies in a street. We're talking to municipalities that are looking to put a camera on a garbage truck because that garbage truck traverses the same streets every day of the week. It has a different route, and it can detect a pothole one day, and every day it's going to see that, every Monday it drives by and sees that same pothole. You can detect how big it's getting over time and when it will need service, right? Instead of sending people out to inspect. So now all of a sudden the city garbage trucks, waste refuse trucks are mobile offices, right? A fire truck, a police vehicle. The city bus has 8 cameras on it and other telemetry devices on it because of all the Internet of Things devices that are out there. So now firewall is critically important to protecting the data that's in that mobile device, in that mobile office, if you will, and making sure that you don't just have that information out there in the wild, like the Atlanta hack where all the body cam footage from the police department was stolen. Some of that data is residing on PCs in those devices, mobile PCs, fleet operators. So not only is it something that everybody needs to have, I believe in a lot of ways it's actually become more critical as we go into a work from home and a mobile workforce or fleet models. It's going to be more and more important, and we have solutions that'll work in those environments.
Wow. Yeah, I'm glad you corrected yourself there, just in case anybody from Newark was watching or anything. So that first question kind of leads into the second question, which is something that I hear a lot from partners coming from their customers, that they're really looking for that silver bullet, that new shiny take all of their problems. That's not a real thing, right?
No, it's definitely not a thing. There is no such thing as a silver bullet. We at Mako, and I know you had Overwatch. I know we all preach a layered approach to security. So a common thing that you hear in the retail space when it comes to POS terminals, I have end-to-end encryption. So I don't necessarily need a firewall because I have it on my terminal. But here's the thing, right? So if you have a single terminal plugged into the same network as your guest Wi-Fi, a piece of malware onto that network, then that terminal is now that ransomware, that business is essentially shut down. So end-to-end encryption is great, but we believe in the layered approach and having a stateful firewall, network segmentation. I definitely think this is a myth, the silver bullet mindset.
Mark, how is Overwatch and iWire Networks approach that philosophy of defense in depth and layered security?
Yeah,
and how does firewalls fit into that?
Well, I think it's one of it's a must, right? So it's one of the first lines of defense. And what I like to refer to as the moat, right? Common analogy, anything behind it is inside the moat, right? And when we look at the threat landscape, to us, having the right firewall solution that is supported by our partner is a real advantage. It's a business advantage because we can respond much more quickly when we have an integrated firewall solution that integrates with our XDR or our network detection and response solutions, and that we know that is well maintained, right? So again, talking about automating responses to that device when there's issues, leveraging not just the IDS, IPS on the actual firewall itself, but the capabilities of our XDR platform to detect anomalies. So we might see an anomaly on customer A who does not have managed firewalls, but we see that anomaly over here, we can look and say everyone who does have a managed firewall is automatically going to get a block on this IP address because we know it's malicious. We know that nobody should be talking to that IP address. So through a combination of our various tool sets and the various ways we receive signals and are able to act on them, it makes an already good solution even better. And we can do that with a variety of platforms. With one that's integrated with our XDR, we can do it faster and on a global nature, as opposed to having our partners go out and do it manually with whatever they've got across 20 different customers with 10 different firewalls.
Wow. Yeah, that's powerful stuff, especially when you have that 24/7 SOC behind it, right? And being able to do that across so many different environments. So number 3, this is one that I've been in security for a long time. I have heard this 1,000 times. And so I'm really excited to debunk this myth because it's so absolutely false. The I don't have anything hackers would want myth. Help the audience understand why that's just not true at all.
70% of businesses that get hacked go out of business within a year. And I think your keynote speaker mentioned this before. He alluded to it that, most of the hacks that happen don't make any of the news outlets. Unfortunately, you don't have to search too far to hear about a mom and pop's restaurant owner that was in business for 20 years. They got hacked. They were found, they were not PCI compliant at the time that they got hacked, so they were responsible for the damages of that breach. So that's an important part, especially when it comes to PCI compliance. Is if you process a credit card, basically if you accept any card swipes at your business, you have to be PCI compliant. If there's a compromise and you're found non-compliant, you, the owner, the merchant, are going to be responsible for the damages of that. That could be the credit card companies withholding payments. So it's a very dangerous belief that's out there in terms of not thinking that the hackers have anything you want. If you are an IP address sitting on the internet, you are low-hanging fruit, especially if you don't have a stateful firewall, especially if you have guest Wi-Fi, et cetera. So that is a very dangerous belief to have.
And if you think about that, and the restaurant vertical in particular, if you think about what's going on in restaurants where you're seated at the table, they're trying to find ways to engage you more, to create experiential differentiators for their brand, right? So some of that is putting devices on the table. Some of that is having wireless gaming going on in there. A lot of that is trying to get you engaged with their app, right? So they can study your behaviors, et cetera. So think about when you are gathering that intel, it's really great to have that behavioral analytics on your customers, but it's also now creating a very significant amount of information, value in the information that you have for other people, because they might be getting credit card information, they might be getting a password, and if your customers are anything like the general public, you pretty much only need to get one password, and you're going to get access to a lot of their stuff. So you're creating in the process of trying to run a business that has a competitive differentiator, you're creating more incentive for people to be looking inside your network and trying to figure out what's going on and what data you do have.
Yeah, loyalty programs will have your first name, last name, your email address. All they need to do is associate that with a list somewhere on the dark web, and they don't have to search too far. A couple commands on a server could go down the rabbit hole of trying to of figuring out just an innocuous visitor to a restaurant owner, and all of a sudden you have enough information to take a loan out on their name. So
Yeah, it's scary, man. I mean, I'm in a bunch of these loyalty programs. They all know my birthday. They know what zip code I live in. They know my name. Sometimes they know my kids' names because I put them in there so they can get, free ice cream on their birthday. And, it's scary. And I think, what I've always said when I hear this is that, these cyber criminals don't know who you are. Most times they don't even know who they breached until they're already penetrated and they're already in. So you're just an IP address in the World Wide Web to them. You're a potential target that they want to squeeze as much money out of. They have quotas to meet. They don't care who you are or what your story is. You're just a potential victim for them. It's not as simple as, I'm a small business in Kansas. Why would anybody from Russia know who I am? That's their job, to go find the low-hanging fruit, easy targets. So that's definitely a myth that as a security industry, we need to continue to debunk there. So this last one is a little bit newer, and it's something that I think with the migration to the cloud is becoming more common, though. All my services are in the cloud, so I don't need a firewall. Why is that not true?
Well, you have to protect your edge, right? So there's devices out there that are communicating with the cloud. And, again, if it's an IP address sitting on the internet, then you have a potential point of exposure. So it's great. The cloud is great for a lot of things. It helps with consolidation and control. But at the same time, you still have edge devices, edge sites. Those could be multi-site retail stores. They all have devices behind their local network that need to be protected, properly segmented, and you need to be able to pull the logs to essential service like the Overwatch to monitor the behavior that's going on those networks. So another pretty dangerous belief that's out there. The cloud is great, but it's not, to that second point, it's not a silver bullet.
Mark, do you got any thoughts to add there? Did Ronak switch that one?
No, yeah, I think he's right on with it, and it's just a reminder you got to access the cloud some way, shape, or form. Going back to the earlier comment around work from home, how are your employees accessing that information in the cloud? Are you sure that it's secure? Are you? I wouldn't bet on it, right? Are they doing it on their mobile phones? Do you have mobile device management? All of those things play in, right? So if they're working from home, that firewall is still the first line of defense. And frankly, seeing all the information it gives us on the wire is absolutely critical to being able to detect and isolate issues happening within the network and without. And VPN technology, for all of its challenges, it still has the ability to give us visibility to that device when it's out there remotely, and to help our clients make sure it's properly configured, that the other layers of security behind it are properly layered on top of that to minimize breaches from split tunneling and different things that where those tunnels can be pivoted.
Yeah, and I think that we're going to see a trend where the multi-site network is going to be much different than it was a couple of years ago, because as we start reopening and people start going back, I mean, most of the people I know who have been working from home, they're going to go back to work a couple of days in the office because they've really learned to embrace the work from home thing. During the last year, companies made investments in moving things to the cloud so you could work from home. So, even my wife's company, they're going to recommend that you come in a couple of days a week, but that's it. So MSPs got to be thinking about this. Business owners need to be thinking about this. How is this going to affect them? This is the new generation of the multi-site network, and the cloud is involved there. And firewalls are still just as critical as they ever were in the networks from a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I was talking to some folks the other day in general about employment matters, and I think this plays into it's a really relevant conversation, because Something like 35% of the entire U.S. workforce, and probably similar globally, are contemplating their careers, their career choices, their employment choices, those things. So we're going to see significant upheavals in the general workforce, which are going to have an impact on how we secure the networks of the future. The cloud's continuing to evolve. The IoT is going to continue to explode. And how do you protect largely insecure devices that are on-prem cameras, et cetera, that are easily exploitable, weren't designed to be patched or updated or even really managed, right? You're looking, look at the technology out there to blanket your neighborhood with internet by using your Ring doorbell, right? I mean, that's allowing strangers to leverage your network. Some scary stuff, right? So when you look at all of these trends and you look at the fallout on the workforce, being an employer who's able to secure your business and offer the type of flexibility that people might be looking for is going to be a critical business advantage, because if you can't continue to manage and grow and keep your stuff secure all at the same time, you're going to be at a very significant disadvantage to people who are competing for the same workers.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about Overwatch 24/7 and some of the services, including managed firewall, that are offered to help secure those multi-site networks and the evolution of those multi-site networks. Starting with the managed firewall offering, why was that important for Overwatch to offer, Mark? What was the synergy there and the need overall?
Okay. Well, I'll just start with, from this is, my opinion, and we're seeing it start to be validated through our partner community. There's a lot of products out there, again, and we're not really trying to solve a product issue. For all intents and purposes, if we want to say a firewall is something that you must have, a firewall, a lot of them have a lot of the same bells and whistles, features and functions, all that stuff. At the end of the day, what's the business driver, right? And so for us, we wanted to have a partner that we're closely aligned with, that has enough flexibility to look at what we're seeing, to look at what our partners are feeding back to us and say, this is how we'd like to see it potentially improve, and to be able to incorporate those changes, to be able to tie it to our XDR platform, our NDR platform, to be able to bring it into a single pane of glass, so that when there's things that are coming from one firewall, we are able to look at it, decide what to do with it, and then take action based on the severity or the type of issue that it is, and propagate that across an entire thing. And then from a straight up business perspective, again, when we listen to our partners, they take over a customer, and a lot of times they're spending time trying to completely untangle the network that the customer has, or get credentials to it or whatever. So we envision a partner in the small and mid-sized space being able to come into a new customer and say, you know what, you've got this stuff here. It might be a little dated. I know you don't want to part with it. I know you don't want to spend $15,000 for a network upgrade to get a new firewall and a few new switches and a couple of wireless access points. Let me position this for $200 a month. I'm going to manage these 2 or 3 devices. For $500 a month, you're going to get an entire new network, fully managed. It's a single price, all that stuff. And we're able to manage it all through a common interface. So for our partners, simply put, it's just another rock in the bag to help you go win more deals. And at the end of the day, that's really what we're hoping, is that this enables our customers, our partners, to say to their customers, let me do this for you. It's a low monthly recurring charge. I'm going to be responsible for managing it. I'm going to maintain it for you. We've got replacements, packages, all that stuff. And by the way, it's not just the network switching. It's not just the firewall. It's not just the access points, but we're securing all this because it's monitored with the Overwatch 24/7 XDR platform. We're able to provide a whole other layer of security around your business, give you connections to that cloud stuff you talked about, to your Salesforce instance, to your internal network, to the EDR solution that you've got on all those external PCs out of those small office, home office users. So it's really about winning deals, solving a problem, being able to take over a customer's network, put them onto a new solution in a more cost-effective way.
Yeah. Ronak, from Mako perspective, why did the partnership with Overwatch make sense? You guys are traditionally an enterprise-focused company. What was it about partnering with an MSSP like Overwatch that made sense for y'all?
The very complementary solution set that Overwatch is providing. We provide the actual mechanism and the tools, and Overwatch is overlaying some of the services on top of it, the managed services. Things that a mid-sized enterprise just don't have the staff to do. Taking the syslogs, making sense of all the traffic that's there, knowing what's an anomaly, knowing what's an actual threat, responding to the threat. So having a program like Overwatch 24/7, along with the Mako, making it a very palatable monthly fee, something that operators can bake into their operating costs. So it's just like, paying your water bill, paying your electric bill. Now you have to pay your cybersecurity bill. And I think it's a very complementary solution set. So from a proactive monitoring standpoint.
Gotcha. Yep. Well, before we get to Q&A, because we've got about 9 minutes left here, and we do have some good questions. We got a pretty interactive audience here. So let's just wrap up with, final talking points about, securing the multi-site network, how Mako and Overwatch Managed Firewall specifically, help secure those single and multi-site networks. Just any final thoughts on that before we do Q&A?
Sure. So, just to wrap up what the, I'll let Mark talk to the Overwatch, kind of summarize the Overwatch. I'll summarize the Mako 6600. It's a next-gen firewall, has the IDS, IPS built into it. A feature called Enterprise Templates, which I didn't really talk about, and I'm not going to get too technical, but the ability to create a firewall policy and push it out to potentially thousands of locations within minutes. That's a big part of why we have the large enterprise brands that we have, the ability to create uniformity across multi-hundred, multi-thousand sites. The XDR, which is the Overwatch platform, the cellular backup, the SD-WAN capability, and having everything cloud-based means that the devices are pre-configured before they arrive on site. So essentially just making it as zero touch as possible.
So Mark, just real quick, what from the perspective of a single or multi-site network, what pain is this offering going to solve for them?
Well, I think Ronak hit on a bunch of it is with with a lot of the platforms that are out there, you have to pay extra for a consolidated management platform, or there's some things you can do globally, but not others. So to be able to deploy a change across the entire estate very quickly is critical. And then when you get into the MSP model or in our model, where it's not just one customer with 100 sites, it's multiple customers, and you can pick and choose those templates. So if you, as an MSP, want to build your own template that all of your customers have, you can go in, build that template. All of your customers will have that same level of rigor and discipline that you want, right? So those are critical. For a customer who's trying to enforce policies uniformly, they can go in and tighten that up to their level, right? And that all that stuff is really critically important. Ronak also hit on one thing, and we've only sort of casually referenced it, which is the out-of-band management, the cellular capabilities of these things. So 4G, 5G failover for customers using voice solutions or need to process critical payments. There's no downtime, right? If the primary connection fails, it can fail over. And in the case of voice, a very latency dependent solution, it can actually fail over quick enough that calls won't drop. So the failover is that fast. So now, obviously, cellular rates apply, and the data package needs to be purchased for those pieces. But for a customer who has an unreliable ISP, unreliable broadband connections, it gives them lots of options to back up.
Well, we've got about 5 minutes left here, and we've got quite a few questions. I'm going to pick the two that seem to be the most common here. Let's start with what makes the solution unique for addressing PCI compliance? Can I use just any firewall?
I'll take this. So I didn't mention it, but Mako goes through a rigorous PCI audit every year. And the scope of that audit not only includes our data centers, our support services, the way we interact with our customers, but it extends to the hardware. So a lot of the nuances that are required by PCI, like rotating your passwords every 90 days, not utilizing default passwords, network segmentation out of the box, just to name a few, those requirements are actually baked in to our hardware and our platform. So I didn't mention it, but Mako is a level 1 PCI attested service provider end to end. So it includes our platform and the hardware that's deployed at site. So you have that level of attestation using our solution or using the Mako solution.
Wow, that's really cool stuff right there. Mark, I'm going to toss this one to you with the last couple of minutes we have here. What kinds of managed service providers could benefit from this program?
Well, I think any managed service provider or technology reseller, any of our partners could benefit from this program. Even our partners that are not part of the Overwatch platform today could benefit from it, as you know they sell hardware all day long. So anybody who has customers who need a firewall can benefit. The ability to drive monthly recurring revenues. Well, it's not entirely novel anymore, but for somebody who's looking for a managed service around firewall, we bring it so it's ready-made for them. We can deliver all of it if they're interested, or they can do some of it on their own. So anybody who's looking to build a practice around monthly recurring revenue practice where they're not, frankly, where they're not footing the bill for the upfront expense, and then having to float the customers in cash and get paid back over a 36-month timeline. This gives them the ability to do it all and normalize their cash flow day one.
Can you expand a little bit on what is the benefit for MSPs customers, right? What would move the needle? What's going to move the needle for MSPs customers about using this type of firewall solution to secure multi-site networks?
I think again, a lot of the same benefits that we've talked about, right? The ability to transition. Think about customers who, especially customers with large real estate footprints or work from home, right? The ability to do it in such a way that doesn't break the bank, right? If you've got 20 remote users or 50 remote users, to be able to do it in a monthly way, in the same way you consume all your SaaS model stuff, all your Salesforce, all your RMM tools, whatever, you can now budget and price this in for those small office, home office users. The MSP can do it on a per seat basis. The customer's paying in a way that they want to consume it. So there's a lot of opportunity to make it, to leverage the OpEx model as opposed to the CapEx model, and to make sure that they're availing themselves of the updates as they come alive, right? We can push we push new software down to them and update all of the software on all of the devices. So to get a current, a next gen firewall at a cost effective solution is critical. When you pair it with our Overwatch 24/7, the biggest advantage that a customer then gets is, again, all of the threat detections going on, all of the anomaly detections that we're finding day in, day out, allows them to avail themselves of the rapid response. So,
yeah, and I would definitely recommend, whether you're a business owner or a managed service provider, feel free to reach out. If you have any questions, hopefully we debunk some myths for you about this topic, and those wheels are turning now. Reach out to your managed service provider. Reach out to us. We have partners that can assist you with that. Feel free to research, Mako Network some more. They've got some great data sheets and some information out there that's really educational. So we're going to wrap it up here. Please go on and enjoy the rest of the breakout sessions. We've got some really cool stuff coming out next. And Ronak, Mark, thank you. You guys did great. Really good chat.
Thanks, Travis. I'm partial to the one I'm doing next on some of the Gartner take on XDR. So if anybody wants to hear that with Steve, that's going to be an outstanding session.
Can't miss television right there. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, gentlemen.
Thanks, guys.